Oh, high ground.
Welcome back to Star Wars Newsnet's The Resistance Broadcast. It's episode 91. I'm John Hoey. We have a loaded show for you guys tonight with some huge news stories, new giveaways, and a very special interview with Hera Syndulla herself from Star Wars Rebels, Vanessa Marshall. But before we get into everything, let's say hi to the leaders of the Resistance. James Bainey, the man who conducted this interview that you'll hear in a little bit. What's up, James?
I am very excited to be on the podcast again tonight, and I'm also excited because I got my new iPhone and I took a really cool picture of my custom-made Captain Phasma today on a black background, and it's my wallpaper now, and it is phenomenal. I'm just so excited. I'll have to put it up on Twitter for you guys.
Phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. And the dude from Kentucky who's drinking some red wine tonight, Bill, what is happening?
You know, I've been having some very weird dreams recently. I had a dream that Tommy Wiseau from The Room was in the Star Wars, and he just came in the middle of it and said, "Oh, high ground," and then just walked away. I don't know.
Oh my God.
I'm very happy to be here. This red wine is doing its job. Well, let's talk some Star Wars.
Bill, if that's not a prequel meme yet, get on that immediately.
I will. Absolutely.
And we're going to talk merch in a second, so maybe that'll be one of our t-shirts. But we also have Patrick Covey here. What is happening, Patrick?
Trying to stay busy, catching up on some Battlefront books. Gonna be hyped to come play some Battlefront with you guys next week on Xbox. Hit me up.
You just finished some kind of download recently, right?
Yeah, I actually did the early download. I know it was available mostly for the EA Access guys this week, but they gave everyone access to start the download and go ahead and get it done. You can't access the game yet, but you know what? I took care of it, all 51 gigs.
You are ready. You're just ready to go. You're ready to hit start and just get rolling. And speaking of getting rolling, we have some poll results, and it's not your typical type of poll that we did this week. We actually asked you guys, if we were to create official Star Wars Newsnet Resistance broadcast merchandise, what type of stuff would you be interested in? And we gave you guys some options, and also obviously gave you one to leave some comments of your own. But 12% of you said you'd like to see patches, 16% you'd say you wanted to buy some pins, and huge amount, 67% said t-shirts. We want the t-shirts, so that's probably where we're steered. We also had 5% who said other and commented with mostly hoodies. People are interested in hoodies, maybe because it's fall time and that's what is on their mind. And one guy said beer, but I don't think we're going to be making beer anytime soon.
Nope, not
unfortunately.
happening.
Yeah,
maybe bourbon.
Bantha beer.
That guy just unfollowed us after hearing that. But, our best comment went to one of our giveaway winners recently, I believe, Justin Colita at JK Tap 26. He said all of it. And guys, I don't know about you, but I thought that was a great answer.
Mm-hmm. 10 out of 10 would recommend Justin.
Yes, spread that word, Justin, please. But yeah, we're going to be getting into that stuff soon, so stay tuned for that. But we also have a giveaway that we want to get going here. We're going to select two winners for this. It is a Star Wars Kirigami, which I didn't even know what that was until now, from the Journey to Star Wars The Last Jedi. Designer Marc Hagan-Guirey created these books of 15 unique Kirigami, which are cut and fold ships, kind of like 3D little models you can make, that are featured from all the saga films, ranging in difficulty from beginner to expert. So, Bill, you'll probably do the beginner ones, I would imagine.
Almost exclusively. That's pretty much where I've stayed my entire life. So we'll go up to mediocre at some point.
And we'll be giving away 2 of these books, as I mentioned. And we just posted the tweet now. So all you have to do this week, just retweet that tweet. And we're going to pick 2 of you. So go to @RBATSWNN on Twitter. Grab that tweet, retweet it, and you're in to win. And we'll announce those 2 next week. So be sure to do that right now or after the show. Up to you. And now we're going to send it over to James for Newsnet.
Probably some of the biggest news that we have gotten in a while dropped on Thursday with the announcement from StarWars.com that Rian Johnson, director of the upcoming Last Jedi, will create a brand new Star Wars trilogy. The first of which he will write and direct with longtime collaborator Ram Bergman on board to produce. This is huge news, which, of course, we thought was going to be all the stories to come out of Lucasfilm that day. But sure enough, Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, also decided to inform us that they are currently working on bringing a live-action television show to the upcoming streaming service from Disney in the near future. Bill, tell me, where were you when you heard the news about the new trilogy led by Rian Johnson?
I had just gotten home. I had poured my first glass of red wine. No, I'm kidding. I was on my way home from work, and Pat told me on the Twitter. But if anything, this gets me at least a million times more excited for The Last Jedi. It hasn't even come out yet, and they've already given him a whole new trilogy of unexplored stories that we've never seen before. So they must be really confident with the amount of love that The Last Jedi is going to get. And as a fan, that gets me way more excited for it, and I can't wait to see it, obviously. As far as like where it could go, there are so many different possibilities. I'd love to see Old Republic. I don't know if that's necessarily the way you do it, but if anybody can do it, it's Rian Johnson. As far as the TV show goes, it makes sense, and they've been trying to work on this or make it for a while now, even way back when George Lucas owned. It was George Lucas's baby. They were trying to do a bounty hunter show, like kind of the underworld. So this is finally we're finally getting a live action Star Wars show. Makes sense, and it's just wow. Like, if it was just one of either of those two stories, like in one day, that'd be a huge news day. Both of them, that's insane.
So one place that we know this is not going to go is the movie, at least, is the Skywalker saga. They pretty much nixed that right away. They said, hey, Rian Johnson's going to be creating this new trilogy. He's going to be setting it up, and it's going to go somewhere that we have, I'm trying to think of the exact wording, but somewhere where we have not seen yet in Star Wars before. Now, that could be taken a bunch of different ways. Does he mean, is the news that they're not going to go somewhere where they haven't gone with the movies, or somewhere they haven't gone in the new canon, or somewhere where they haven't gone in Legends? You know what I mean? Or is it 100% completely new that we've never seen before? John, what are you thinking?
I think that it's going to be a blank canvas for Rian Johnson. I think they were so happy with what he did with The Last Jedi. They didn't say, we want you to do another movie. They said, we're going to give you 3. So that off the bat, that's a lot of capital for him to work with. And let alone, like you just said in the opener there, Ram Bergman's coming back with him. So he's bringing his crew. So they like what everyone in his crew did, who he's familiar working with. I mean, I'm even thinking outside the box, like John Williams is probably retiring. Who's going to score this thing? I know his 2 other films, Brick and Looper, were done by Nathan Johnson. So does he bring him in? There's so many things to be answered in terms of the production. But content-wise, I think it's going to be some brand new stuff. I just hope it's not too far from familiarity in terms of, I hope we still see some Force users and some lightsabers and stuff like that. But it'd be cool to go to a planet and meet brand new characters that aren't someone's daughter or granddaughter or grandson. Like you're saying, just kind of put an end to the Skywalkers for a while at least. We'll catch up with Rey when she's 40 or something like that, if Daisy's still interested. But I think it's going to be some brand new stuff, and I'm excited to see it. And I'm even more, as Bill said, excited to see The Last Jedi now that I know Kathleen Kennedy just gave this guy 3 blank checks.
Pat, what do you think about the TV part of this? We're going to be getting a new television series that's going to be on the new Disney streaming service that they announced a little while ago. This actually makes a lot of sense, right? It gives someone a reason to actually want to get into the streaming service. Are you excited for a television series, or are you more of like no, just stick with the movies?
I'm actually looking forward to this because it's something that hasn't been explored in a long time. In terms of television, all we've had for Star Wars content has been the animated shows. I mean, I guess you could go back and say, like, but wait, the Star Wars Christmas special was on TV. Yeah, well, that wasn't a series. It doesn't count. It's not canon anyway.
Are we really trying to make the holiday special canon? Is that
No.
what the standard we want to put ourselves
There
to?
are elements of the special that are already canon, so we're leaving it at that. If you don't know what they are, look them up. they have made elements canon. So,
and
there you go.
Patrick celebrates Life Day all the time. So
I do too. Every day's Life Day. So, yeah, with this TV special, I would like us to go to something new. If they still want to tie it into some era we're already in, that's fine with me. I want something fresh and new. I don't want it to necessarily be a group film like Rogue One is. I do want a little bit of individuality and a little bit of building characters up, kind of like what Rebels has been doing, where they'll have different arcs set up, where this episode's might focus more on Ezra. This one might go back and tie in a little more with like Zeb or something like that. Go ahead, build up those characters, because if anything, that's one of the biggest takeaways from the animated series right now is that we do go back and these characters from the beginning grow and learn, and that's one of the best things you can do in Star Wars television or any TV show is build up your characters. As long as you have a good driven story, it can't fail.
I agree with you, man. When I heard the news, like initially, my first thought went to, oh, well, this is confirmation that they're doing the
10, 11, 12.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, 10, 11, and 12 immediately. Mm-hmm. And then I started thinking about it. I read a little bit more, and I'm like, okay, no, they're doing something completely different. So then maybe they're doing Old Republic. You know, maybe this is the trilogy that introduces Old Republic. I'm like, oh, I don't know, man. This is a toss-up. Like, what could it be? And then I thought about it a little bit more, and the way they kind of explain it is that it's going to be something they've never done. I take them at face value. I don't think there's a trick in there. They're not trying to say, like, it's something we've never done, wink in canon, you know, or something like that. I think it's just like them saying, look, we've never really explored these things before. We want to completely give them the blank slate, like John was saying. Now, what I did kind of pull from this is we just recently had Kathleen Kennedy talking on the Star Wars show about the next 10 years of Star Wars and where they're going to be going. So if you start to add it up, you're thinking, all right, well, we're getting, you know, episode 8 in 2017. We're getting episode 9 in 2019. They might take a break and know exactly what they're going to be doing as far as television and other mediums, and then step in and give us a 2023 movie, a 2025 movie, and a 2027 movie. That would end this next arc or phase of Lucasfilm. That's where they're leading up to, ending this next trilogy. And then we're like, then we'll think about it from then on. So to me, this kind of confirms that we're probably getting a movie in 2023, 2025, and 2027.
I don't know if it'll go that far though, because I think this trilogy could potentially be kind of that kind of break from the sequel trilogy, because you have Obi-Wan allegedly in 2020, and then have that, and then maybe after that, because I think that I want a similar break that we had in between The Force Awakens and Revenge of the Sith. I kind of would like that for the Skywalker
10-year break.
Yeah. Honestly, because I think that it makes it more special when we go to the theater and when these movies come out, it makes it an event. How special was The Force Awakens after 10 years of not having Star Wars and 30 years of not having Han Solo, Princess Leia, and Luke Skywalker? So I think that's necessary, and I think that's what they're doing with this, because it makes sense to me. And
then John Williams is definitely not doing the score.
Oh, no, absolutely not. But my question, and we've talked about, everyone's talked about this to a little bit of an extent. What was compelling enough for Rian Johnson to take something so unknown and so kind of something that Star Wars has never done? It's got to be really, really exciting. I don't know what that is, but the fact that he's willing to go in and just dive right in right after he's done The Last Jedi, that gets me excited.
Do you think he gave them a pitch and he was like, I have this idea, and they're like, oh man.
I wouldn't be,
they offered him 9 and he's like, no, I'm good with this, but I have this idea. That's the other
thing. I think that the fact that he passed on 9 is a little bit more clear. It doesn't make sense to him to do 9 when he's like, well, I'm going to be doing this other thing. You know what I mean? Or he's like, maybe he does do it the way you're proposing. Like, they pitched him 9 and he said, 9 would be awesome. I'd love to do it, but I also have this other idea. And they're like, that's better. Yes. Yeah. Let's get JJ back to do 9. you're on that new thing you just talked about. So that makes a lot of sense. Do you guys think that the TV show, I mean, it could be a billion different things, right? But the two that I think most people are probably excited for is the Bounty Hunter Underworld 1313 whatever. Or do you think they're going to go the Game of Thrones meets Star Wars in the Old Republic type stuff?
I think Game of Thrones style KOTOR. It's such a proven commodity, man.
I don't know if it would work in Star Wars though. That's my only concern. Like, I love Game of Thrones, but
you know nothing, Bill Sheehy.
That's true, and we've proved that over 15 episodes or how many episodes I've been on here.
We can't prove anything. We deleted those ones because you were wrong.
Good. That's a really, really good point. Thank you for clarifying. But yeah, I my heart goes to Knights of the Old Republic, because my childhood playing like Star Wars video games, it was Knights of the Old Republic 1, Knights of the Old Republic 2. Good Lord, I can't talk. So yeah, I would love to see that. The Bounty Hunter thing just doesn't excite me as much as the Old Republic kind of era, like seeing the Jedi at the height of their powers, and even potentially a Sith Empire. Seeing Dark Force users going up against Jedi is really exciting to me.
So I've always felt like in the case of the television show, this is very opinionated. I've explained this very thoroughly. As much as I would love to see an Old Republic TV show, I didn't grow up reading the novels or playing those games, but I've always loved the thought of anything involving Knights of the Old Republic or anything like that to come into canon, is that if you're gonna do it, it's got in the style of a TV show. You're gonna have to dive really deep. You're gonna have a massive script. You're gonna have a huge cast prepped way in advance for something like that. And the funding and the feasibility for what you want to do in terms of the VFX and everything like that. I mean, sure, you can pull off like an arena fight scene like they did in episode 2, but with a television budget, that really starts to make me scratch my head. It's like, well, if you're going to have, like, say, a 12-episode Season 1 of The Old Republic, and the demand for what the fans are going to want with something like that, Disney's going to have to front a lot of cash and a massive budget for Season 1. And sure, if it's great and they handle it,
I'm almost positive they will.
I think they can do it, but it's a question of, will it meet the fan expectation? As much as we are begging for it, the question is who they pick and who's going to write, and can we get the stuff ready in time? Because they're saying we want this in 2 years. They want to put it on the streaming service by 2019, around launch time. Can they do this in 2 years?
They've already started. Like, they wouldn't announce it if they weren't either.
I started working out for it already. So
yeah, exactly. I'm actually in it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a stunt guy.
Yeah, exactly. So they've already started working on it. I'm almost positive about it.
And also, if it has the Disney stamp on it, they're going to make sure it's done right. Disney protects their brand so much. They're not going to launch a channel and be like, here's this so-so Star Wars show.
Yeah. Do you think it would be like a 40-minute, like hour-long, like sort of format for Star Wars?
Yeah.
That's another question, because if you're going to do it like that, it's almost like when they were doing Battlefront 2. They said that project was, like a 2 to 3 year VFX mission, and the story mode's only supposed to be like 4 to 6 hours roughly for that. I mean, that's all CG, obviously.
But we didn't find out about the Battlefront 2 until like a year ago, and they had already been working on it for almost 2 years. So
my question is just like, how are you, if they do it right, they got to be really hauling ass or have a bunch of people hired on to do that. That's a huge undertaking.
It is a huge undertaking. And I mean, I think we all are just waiting to hear what they're going to say next. I mean, we could speculate for hours and hours and hours, and I know we all want to, but let's keep it moving. Let's keep focused on what's coming in December. An interview with Disney Insider has somewhat spoiled the fun. Fans have been debating the possibility of Luke being a character that embraces the dark side in the upcoming movie. Well, it wasn't really Disney Insider. It was Marc Hamill himself.
What?
He was asked about the fact that Luke has been described as dark in the film. Would you agree? To which Hamill replied, In Star Wars The Force Awakens, Luke has lost confidence in his ability to make good choices. It haunts him to the core, but he hasn't gone to the dark side. This isn't an evil version of him, but it is still an incarnation of the character I never expected. It has pulled me out of my comfort zone, and it's a real challenge. Patrick, this sounds like we may not be seeing Luke using Force lightning, but what do you think of Mark's explaining Luke's state of mind in The Last Jedi?
Emo Luke.
Emo Luke.
Emo Luke, yeah. He's going through this emotional turmoil. He's really distanced himself from everybody else. He really, I think, this wasn't so much as he maybe was too powerful. I mean, sure, he could have caused this. There's a lot of factors going into this, and how everything might have turned out. Sure, like if something like this were to happen to one of us, sure, we would be in a lot of emotional distress in that similar situation. I don't think a lot of us, in the case of like Ben Solo, we would be able to handle that sort of stress on the spot like that. So I feel like Rey coming to him and starting to like show him who he is again, or at least find like a middle ground to not where like, oh my god, you're like the greatest Jedi of all time, but trying to find that nice balance of this is who you truly are. You are Luke Skywalker. Make a name for yourself, not for the accomplishments you've done, but for the person and the character of yourself.
That makes a lot of sense. Bill, what do you make of his comments?
Well, you know, I'm glad that he finally kind of just went out and said it, that there wasn't going to be a dark-sided Luke. That would completely negate the original trilogy when he threw down his lightsaber and said, "No, I am a Jedi like my father before me." So yeah, there was no way in hell that Disney or they were going to turn Luke to the dark side. He is one of the greatest cinematic heroes of all time, and that just wasn't going to happen. Now, it was a little bit more attainable to me, or easier for me to swallow than Reylo, but that's just me. But yeah, I'm glad that he finally went up and said that, like, no, this isn't happening. He's just in a different place, and that I'm glad that he said, like, specifically, like, this is still pretty much like the same kind of Luke, or same basic character. He's just in a different place, which makes sense. His entire order after a Jedi Order was destroyed. So yeah, you'd be in a little bit of emotional distress, just like Patrick said. So these comments make sense to me, and I'm glad that like these all, because when The Force Awakens came out, everybody thought, oh, Kylo Ren that's Luke Skywalker, evil Luke Skywalker, man. You know, he's got the weird lightsaber.
I remember that.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad that this kind of once and for all puts the nail in the dark Luke coffin. So yeah, I'm obviously very happy with this.
The unfortunate thing is that they continued to say that Kylo Ren was Luke even after they announced Adam Driver, and there were pictures of him with his helmet off.
It's all a conspiracy, man. It's all a conspiracy.
John, you're probably the person that has been like the most vocal about he's not turning to the dark side, period. So when you heard these comments, were you just like screaming in the air like, finally?
Yeah, I was. Just real quick on that, the Kylo Ren thing. I remember Jimmy Kimmel had Adam Driver on, and he was showing him stills from the promos for The Force Awakens, and he would point to them and be like, "Is that you?" And Adam Driver would be like, "Yeah, that's me." And then he'd be like, "Is that you?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, that's me." Just to confirm that he was the
Kylo Ren is Luke Skywalker confirmed.
I was so happy to hear Hamill do this. In my takeaway from it is he said Luke's personality hasn't changed. So he's still Luke Skywalker. He's just a more jaded version of Luke Skywalker, which made me think of, if you guys have ever seen Rocky Balboa, like when they came back and like they wanted to make Rocky good, like a good movie again. Right. And his wife died and he lost all his money and he's trying to run a restaurant and his son like doesn't like him. Like that's the Luke I feel that we're getting right now. And he's kind of knocked down, but when you get knocked down, you just got to keep going forward, like Rocky said, and that's what Rey's going to bring to Luke. But I love how he definitively said, he didn't beat around the bush. Like Bill said, he, quote, said, he has not gone to the dark side. There is no evil Luke. So, I mean, it squashes all those theories, so now people have to move on to other stupid theories. But the theme of the surprise to Hamill saying, oh, I'm surprised where my character went, is I think it goes to Luke losing a sense of hope. And Luke was the new hope. Star Wars, I think they're trying to bring in hope for every movie now as the universal theme. He had hope that that Vader would turn to the light side, and now he's saying that the Jedi must end. So I think the biggest surprise for Hamill is that Luke has lost some sense of hope. But in the end, yeah, I am pumped that he made these definitive statements. And honestly, though, we're 30 days away, so we're gonna get a lot of definitive statements pretty soon.
It's so effing close. Like I can't wrap my head around how close it is.
Yeah.
I hope we get that Rocky training montage, by the way.
Mark Hamill wasn't the only person giving interviews this week, though. Kelly Marie Tran sat down with EW's Anthony Breznican this week to talk about the character Rose and her motivation, her state of mind, and even about her jewelry. Yeah, Carrie Fisher was the one who brought up the idea of space jewelry with Rian, but it looks like Kelly is going to be the one to reap the benefits. The necklace she wears has a close sentimental value, she says, when stating, "That is definitely something that is significant to her backstory. It's an object that she kind of has throughout the film, and it is representative of more than just the object itself to her." John, as EW put it, what's with the necklace?
Things about jewelry are things that I don't know much about, aside from this clunky $20 Amazon wedding ring I have on my finger.
Man, you paid way too much for that.
Yeah, I haven't lost it yet. I'm 2 months in, and I still have it. So
that's a good first step.
It's funny how they said Carrie brought up space jewelry, so they gave all these characters different necklaces. Like Poe has a ring he's wearing, and someone thinks Luke is wearing a necklace that definitely doesn't have Darth Vader's kyber crystal in it. But jewelry aside, maybe that's a thing her mother gave you, and her sister has the other portion, and it completes a full moon. And then her sister dies in this movie, and then she's like, "But I'm gonna keep your necklace and make it one." And then in the episode 9, she's gonna have the full moon necklace. That's my prediction. But we know she's the largest part of the new movie. Rian Johnson has said that. So you have Benicio del Toro, you have Laura Dern. They're going to be in the movie, but not the biggest part. She is. What I loved about it, she talked about how she is pragmatic and she wants results and she's very mechanical. And that's the exact opposite of Finn. He is always getting himself into trouble and he doesn't even know how to fly. He needed to break out a pilot to escape from the First Order. He doesn't
have a plan. He figures the plan out along the way.
He needed BB-8 to point out a piece of a tool to give to Rey to fix the Falcon. Like, he doesn't know what he's doing. He just knows how to do sanitation and be a stormtrooper, and that's pretty much it. So
I really identify with Finn.
So you put these two together, and it's the opposites attract thing. So I think that's going to be a really cool. They're going to learn from each other a bit. He's going to make her more of an emotional person. She's going to make him more of a pragmatic person. And I think a romance is going to develop there. But I like everything that she's saying, especially for someone who's apparently really green to acting. I guess she did some comedy stuff or something like that. But I'm really excited to see what she brings to this all, including this potential budding romance with our friend Finn.
Bill, when I saw the picture, the first thing I noticed is, it's kind of like that crescent moon or something along those lines. And I was thinking, what could this mean? And I don't think this is the case, but I did think that maybe it has something to do with an old Death Star. It's some sort of reminiscent thing about a Death Star.
Ooh.
Do you think that's possible at all?
I hadn't heard that, but I kind of like that. And it would be like kind of a cool like homage to the Death Star because that's no moon. But I don't know why. And I could just be grasping at straws here. It looks a little kind of forcey, a little bit, like something mystically, something like that. Because there are different markings on it. And whenever you see like any kind of symbol, whether it's like a full moon or a crescent moon or any kind of symbolism for a moon, and then you see like little carvings on it, I get like a spiritual vibe to it. So I'm not saying that she's like force sensitive or anything, but I definitely think that it's maybe someone in her family, someone she lost, maybe her mom or her dad, or maybe even her sister. We know Paige is in it as well. Right. So maybe it's something like that where she has one moon and Paige has the other one.
Well, that's a good idea. That's a good theory, Bill.
Yeah, thank you. So that
I didn't just say that 2 minutes ago or anything.
I know. Did you say that? I am so sorry. Like I said, I am Finn, and I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, but yes, very forcey, very good theory, John. I really appreciate it. I loved it so much. I was going to say it again.
Patrick, do you have any theories that John just said 5 minutes ago?
Yeah, actually, that was my first thought when I saw the picture. Was like, you got her sister. It's part of a moon. Like, put 2 and 2 together. That's more than likely the case. But I know, like you guys have been saying the past few days, like, don't ever take Disney at face value. Like, just because you think that's what it is in Star Wars is never generally what it's for. I mean, sure, we might have nailed that one right on the head, but like when I first read that article, I'm like, okay, cool. It's Rose. We see a picture of Rose. We talk about a necklace, but no, you're going to have to wait until the movie to find out what it is. It's like, well, why'd you make an article? Why can't we just have talked about Rose? Like, you had to pick that one? There's reasoning behind having to show that.
I feel like the necklace was like the most useless part of that interview, though.
It really was.
I went after the character stuff.
Yeah, me too.
But I really enjoy what you guys are talking about the mysticality behind what a crescent moon is and how it's very spiritual. Like in the Harry Potter franchise, you see a lot of moons symbolized in different things around Hogwarts and stuff like that. So it's nothing new. Magical force abilities, yada yada. You know the deal.
All our listeners who hate Harry Potter are turning off the podcast right now.
They are, yeah.
And what is a Harry Potter?
You don't want to know.
But apparently Bill's one of them.
Yeah.
No, the thing I thought was kind of strange is that they specifically went to the effort to mention the necklace as part of the interview, but yet the picture that they showed like kind of cut the necklace off. There's like an object halfway in front of the necklace. I'm like, couldn't you have used a frame like 2 seconds later when she kind of leans up just a little bit? Or is that revealing? I don't know. But yeah, I think we've touched on the necklace as best as we can, and I think John's right. I think it was really cool to hear a little bit about how she's opposite from Finn. I think that's really important in not just Star Wars, obviously, but in any movie. I mean, you need that character dynamic back and forth, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun watching Finn and Rose try to take on either the First Order or just Canto Bight in general and whatever kind of shenanigans they're going to get to on that planet. That is a lot of news this week, and we've got a lot more podcasts ready for you guys, so I'm just going to let John take it away with the Scoundrels Rundown.
Look, guys, we have an interview with a Star Wars actor, so no one wants to hear this rundown, so I'm just going to really barrel through this thing, so punch it. In addition to the huge news of a new Rian Johnson Star Wars trilogy, Disney boss Bob Iger announced that a new live-action TV series that we just talked about a little bit, exclusive to Disney's upcoming streaming service, will be coming to our eyeballs. The service is set to launch late 2019, so we can potentially expect the new series around that time, or maybe 2020, we're not sure. But Iger also did say he expects the Disney-branded streaming service to be priced substantially below Netflix $10.99 a month, because the service will have less content overall. And he said the price will reflect that. He said, "Our goal is to attract as many subs as possible starting out." And then in his inner monologue, a demonic voice said,
"And then once we have them, we take every cent they have."
Just kidding, Bob. Star Wars Newsnet's 5th birthday giveaway winners were announced. If you enter the contest, be sure to go back to the article that says Happy 5th Birthday Star Wars Newsnet to see if you've won. Prizes range from a copy of Battlefront 2 to Hasbro figures, Black Series figures, Star Wars Newsnet t-shirts, and other Star Wars merchandise. So thanks again to all of our readers and our listeners for making Star Wars Newsnet the best Star Wars fan community out there. Now let's send it over to Comics with Kenobi for this week's Review in Comics.
Star Wars 38 came out this week, and it marks the debut of Dr. Aphra writer Kieran Gillen as the new writer, and he is getting things off with a big bang, literally, with the story Ashes of Jeddah. And this comic issue has got everything in it that you need. There is a lot of action, there is a lot of suspense, and it's got a really good vibe. It's a little bit off kilter, but very engrossing and very engaging. We've got some familiar faces: Han, Luke, Leia, Sana Starros, and we have some from the previous Star Wars run, including Queen Trios back from the from the Shu Torun run. And then, of course, this one does a great job of sort of bridging the gap between the events of Rogue One and A New Hope, and I think in a build-up to The Empire Strikes Back. Heck of an ending at the last page, worth sticking around for. You're going to really enjoy it. Back to you, over and out.
All right, thanks, Matt. Be sure to check those guys out at Comics WTH Kenobi on Twitter, and we'll check in with them again next week. All right, Kathleen Kennedy confirmed that baby porgs known as porglets will appear in The Last Jedi. What is cuter than a porg? A baby porg, right, guys? Totally. Wrong.
Agreed.
Wrong. Japanese figurines show us what porglets will look like. They are basically Dunkin' Donut munchkins with like creepy faces, which is like just really horrifying. Of course, this line of toys is known to be a bit character-based, so it's not clear whether they're going to really look like that or not. But they're not cute by any stretch, and in fact, they're kind of creepy looking. So, porg omelets, anybody?
Boo.
No? Bill,
Too soon.
Bill, can you just repeat what I just said as your own thought?
I can, and I will.
Okay, Star Wars Rebels fall finale episode called Rebel Assault premieres today. So from the press release it says, Hera leads a courageous attack against the forces of Grand Admiral Thrawn, but when things go awry, her battle to win must become a daring escape if she is to survive. Now this is going to be the final episode of the fall, and Rebels is going to take a hiatus over winter, and they'll return with the final homestretch of episodes in early 2018 to conclude the series, which is still unbelievable that that's already over. But for all these stories, be sure to go to StarWarsNewsNet.com, your one-stop shop for all of your Star Wars news and information. You know, Chewie, all this talk about Hera has me wanting to find out a little bit more about her. So let's get out of here and send it to James to introduce our special interview.
Hey Resistance broadcast listeners, it's James here, and I'm delighted to tell you that I've got everyone's favorite Twi'lek, Vanessa Marshall, the very talented voice behind Hera Syndulla on Star Wars Rebels. Vanessa, we're all big fans of the work you have been doing recently in the Star Wars galaxy, and we are so blessed to have you on the show today.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm honored to be on it.
Very cool. Let's go ahead and ask you a couple of these questions. I've got one here. If you think back to season 1 compared to now, what is the one thing that stands out to you the most in terms of how the show and even Hera has evolved?
That's a great question. I think the one thing that stands out is how much closer the crew has gotten to one another, that everyone seems to trust one another so much more. In the beginning, Hera had a lot more information than everyone else, and they sort of blindly followed her. And it seems that now the responsibilities are sort of divvied up in a way that everyone knows what's going on, and they're all kind of improvising together to get through some pretty dire situations. But it seems like it's gone from Hera being in contact with Fulcrum and knowing everything to the crew working more as a team, and I think as a family feeling more deeply connected with one another. And that intimacy, I think, is really wonderful, especially since this is our final season, so I'm glad that they've grown closer.
Absolutely. I'm super interested to see how, these people have slowly just become a family, and I'm excited about seeing where they go in then the future. Speaking of that kind of specifically, we've known that Hera and Kanan have always had somewhat of a secret relationship. I think most fans think of them as mom and dad of the Star Wars crew. What impact do you think their love for one another has had on the other characters and each other?
Well, I think that they definitely have held that sort of mom and dad position for everyone else. I think she's been able to serve as like a role model for Sabine, in as much as Kanan has done the same for Ezra. Obviously, you have a Jedi-Padawan relationship, but I think that the mom sort of helped Sabine and the dad helped Ezra in a way that mom and dads do in those scenarios. And I think that everyone is sort of rooting for them as sort of a silent couple. But it's so behind the scenes. It's still hard to say. I think we'll be able to answer that question better once we've seen the full arc of the 4th season.
Okay.
But I definitely think their love for each other trickles down, and everyone feels that and feels safe near it, knowing that mom and dad will get them through this,
Yeah, absolutely. And that actually leads like right into the next question. There's been a lot of speculation as to who will survive the final season of Rebels. And now we know that Hera lives on and appears during the timeline of, Return of the Jedi, thanks to Forces of Destiny. If you could decide, where would you want to see Hera's story go beyond the final season of Rebels, through the rebellion, against the Empire, and beyond?
Well, I'd love to see where she lands throughout all of it. I'm really curious, perhaps after Return of the Jedi and beyond that, where, I just don't ever see her slowing down. Like, I think she would be engaged in the rebellion as long as it's still going on. Mm-hmm. So, and obviously there's balance in the Force that's always sort of righting itself, and we see that in the films that we have been gifted recently, and I'm looking forward to The Last Jedi for that reason as well. Lots of questions will be answered there in terms of the dark side and of course the Jedi and the balance that needs to be found within that. But Hera positions herself as a member of the Rebel Alliance, and as long as that's needed, I would imagine she'd still be fighting that fight. But I'd love to see where and when, how all that would come together, in the future portion of the narrative. That would be amazing.
There are all kinds of missing pieces that we're excited to see, answers to these questions. In terms of filling the gaps for your character, does Lucasfilm Story Group fill you in on the comics and books that Hera may appear in, so you can connect the dots to her story, or is that more up to you and your quote-unquote headcanon, as they say?
Well, I read a lot of those books and have those comics. I sort of sought them out myself. Dave Filoni really helped me flesh out the character, so I've based much of it on what he said in terms of backstory and stuff like that. But on my own, I love researching and I love reading things. And, I read A New Dawn, and that really helped me understand how she met Kanan.
Yeah.
Reading some of the comic books that Greg Weisman was a part of. I have those, and I've had him sign them, and I flailed. But I had my fangirl moments there. But all of those things help enrich my understanding of Hera and how she operates and the way she makes decisions. So I think it was a little from column A and a little from column B and maybe some of C. But overall, whatever Dave Filoni had to say on the matter is sort of what I took to be law, and developed the character from there mostly.
Dave's the man. He knows exactly what's going on. Let me move away from Rebels. Now that you're involved in Forces of Destiny, can you shed some light on how the recording experience may differ from Rebels, and when were you approached about that project?
I am not sure exactly when that happened, but it was sort of in the middle of things. But more importantly, it is incredibly different from the Rebels experience insofar as I record those by myself.
Oh, okay.
We record Star Wars Rebels as a group, and we're sort of this motley crew, this little family, and we get together and we make fun of each other and we eat food and laugh and nerd out together. And Forces of Destiny, it was much more of a solitary experience. I would read the script, and I read that scene with Han Solo and freaked out.
Of course.
So I still have that experience of reading the script on my own and freaking out and then going in, and I was basically there by myself, and I oftentimes had no idea who would be playing which character when. It's a bit like a video game, I would suppose, because video games are recorded in the same fashion, and they all come together just as nicely. So it's amazing. But I got to tell you, it is such a huge honor to be a part of that, and I'm so happy that that has come in and sort of dovetailed in the middle of us winding down for season 4, and that has just kicking off, and I just think it's wonderful what they've done in terms of providing female role models for young girls and for human beings in general. These are quite incredible people, and I'm glad to be a part of lifting them up and inspiring kids to live by those values. I love the stories that Maz tells, and they're just very inspiring, and it's while it is perhaps a more lonely process, it's very rich with those lessons that make it really fulfilling at the same time. So even though I don't have my buddies there with me, I get so much out of it spiritually. I find them really moving. So I'm really, really excited to see more of them too. They're awesome.
Well, that's awesome what you have to say about, the kids and watching the show. Speaking of that, I mean, Halloween has just passed, and it seems every year we see more and more girls dressing up as characters from Star Wars, as their options for awesome female characters has expanded greatly in the last few years. Have you had a chance to sit back and realize the impact that Hera, Sabine, Rey, Jyn, and other new female characters in Star Wars have had on the next generation of female Star Wars fans?
Definitely. I think about it all the time. And again, I really applaud Lucasfilm and Disney and even Hasbro for creating the figures. I'm blown away by it. And even more so, I'm grateful that it brings families together. Because I've also seen a lot of cosplay and Halloween costumes where you have the mom, the dad, and the kid, and their teddy bear dressed as Chopper. And, we've seen the Rogue Rebels. They came together as a family, and they seem to embody the same values that the Star Wars Rebels crew possesses. And it's wonderful to see that sort of spread out. And watching little girls dress up as Rey and Jyn, and it's so moving. I saw someone dressed up as I was at New York Comic-Con, and Kylo Ren. It might have been one of the 501st Garrison, but this guy was fully committed to darkness, And then this little tiny Jyn came up to him, and he softened, and he bent down, and he hugged her, and everyone was taking pictures, and even Kylo had to, calm down for a minute. To admire how adorable this little girl was. Stuff like that where it just softens everyone's heart. That makes it all worthwhile.
Well, speaking of female characters in Star Wars, the woman who paved the way, Carrie Fisher, will unfortunately be making her final appearance in Star Wars The Last Jedi. Did you ever get a chance to meet Carrie? And if so, did she offer any advice to you? If not, have you ever personally been inspired by her work on the franchise?
I did meet her at Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim. I believe that was in 2014. We were doing signings there, and there were a bunch of us backstage, and she had her dog with her, and she was so jolly, and just, I don't know, her energy was so joyful, and it was so fun to be around her. And in addition to that, yes, I have been deeply inspired by her work in the franchise.
Cool.
And her work in her life, her books as well as her plays. I've gone to see her perform, her one-woman show that she did, and I've drawn a lot of strength from her, and she was very outspoken about a number of issues that I also care about, and I think she did a lot to empower women and, really just by example, she taught us to live fully and without apology, just as Princess Leia did, but even in her own life, I think she really walked the walk, and I have always just respected her deeply for that. And my favorite question is, what would Carrie do?
Yeah.
She had a lot of moxie, and I'm gonna miss her. I'm so sad she's gone.
I think we're all gonna miss her.
Yeah.
She was an iconic character in the films. Let me ask you, if they ever made a Hera standalone film, what would you want it to be about, and would you want to be involved in the project if in some way if asked?
Well, first of all, I would say whatever Lucasfilm deems as an important story to be told that helps further serve the overall narrative for the Star Wars saga,
Sure.
I would fall in line with whatever they think is best.
Yeah.
And if they asked me to do any part of it, whether it's animated or live action or, if there's any, even an audiobook, I have no idea, but any story that Lucasfilm would want to tell, if they led the way, I would follow, and I would be honored. And, personally, I'm curious about what happened after the Battle of Scarif. I wonder if that story will ever get told. Who knows? But whether it was with me portraying Hera or someone else, I would love to see any stories told. So
Yeah.
hopefully that would happen, but, who knows? I know they know what's best, so I trust them completely.
Well, that pretty much answers then the next question. I was going to say, will you be involved in future Star Wars projects in addition to Forces of Destiny? Maybe something not associated with Hera?
I not to my knowledge, but
Okay.
We'll see. More will be revealed. Who knows? I have no knowledge of that, but I will be engaged with the Star Wars franchise as a fan, as I was before this project happened, and following that, every Christmas now I seem to be in line with the LiningUp.net charity group, and we get to see the movie the first night at Man's Chinese Theater, and we line up outside together, and I have new quote-unquote family members. The whole idea of Star Wars family is a very real thing, and whether I'm on the Lucasfilm side of it or in line at the movie theater going to see whatever they create next, I will surely be involved, and I'm so deeply grateful for that. So I'll be involved with future Star Wars projects as a fan for sure.
Great. That's at least that. It's good to hear.
Yeah.
As we get to the end of our interview, I have to unfortunately ask you the heavy-hitting questions here. What is your favorite fan theory, or at least one that's going to make you laugh?
Gosh, I kind of stay away from fan theories and speculation and stuff like that. I kind of want to come to different things. Like Rogue One, I didn't pay attention. Last Jedi, not really paying attention. I heard someone mention that they think Ezra is Snoke, and that definitely made me laugh.
Yeah.
I have no idea what is true or not, so I don't know if I have the right to laugh. Who knows?
Of course.
But I tend to kind of stay away from the fan theories, so I might not be as well versed in the comedy in those. But do you have a favorite fan theory?
Gosh, off the top of my head, all the fan theories that we have to cover on Star Wars Newsnet are just constantly being thrown at us so regularly. I recently was I was tossed one that was saying that Rey could possibly be a descendant of Count Dooku, which would explain some of the British background. I don't know. I kind of thought that one was interesting, but I'm pretty sure the more you think about it, it wouldn't make sense.
Wow. That's interesting.
There's a million of them.
Yeah, I love talking about this stuff all day long. So but I don't really. It's weird. Sometimes I think if I comment on it, it seems like I would know what I'm talking about simply because I'm a part of Star Wars Rebels. But in fact, I have no clue. So no one could take my answer as any kind of clue because I'm just like anyone else, who's seen the movie or going to see the movie, and I can guess at these things. I'm happy not to know, actually. Probably just the same way I don't look into fan theories. I like to come to things completely open. I'm also open to hearing the theories, but I can't guide anyone through it.
I think what's interesting about the fan theories that most people speculate on is the fact that they know, Lucasfilm knows, that whatever they come up with, chances are that a fan has already thought of it if it's related somehow to something we've already seen. So they're going out of their way to create new things because there's no way we would guess those things. There's no way we could say she was related to a character we've never seen before. So they're not going to make her related to someone we have seen. But I don't know. I mean, that's how I would think of it. And then a couple other fan theories and stuff that just talk about, we just got an announcement today that Rian Johnson will be working on a new trilogy. Well, he can't be working on something that we've already seen because he is going to be working on something that we have not seen. They're saying, don't bother to speculate. It's something we haven't seen at all. So that's exciting.
Okay. Wow, cool. Excellent. I wonder what it is. That's awesome.
Let me ask you our final question, and this is one that you kind of alluded to earlier in the interview. There's a lot of pressure here for you, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Is the Ghost better than the Millennium Falcon, really?
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
Personally, I will vote for the Millennium Falcon all day long, but that may be because I was born and raised on the Millennium Falcon. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's Vanessa Marshall answering that question. But I did ask Pablo Hidalgo this question, and he said that the Millennium Falcon has a faster hyperdrive, and it can more easily pass as an innocent freighter. But he did say that the Ghost would be less temperamental and better armed.
Okay.
So he said neither is better nor worse. They're very different.
Yeah.
And he said that while, 12 parsecs for the Millennium Falcon, he said that Hera in the Ghost could do a respectable 14. But
nice.
I don't know. Based on what he said, I still think it's Millennium Falcon.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's an understandable answer.
Yeah, I had to consult the professionals on that.
True.
So it's up to you. You want the Kessel Run in 12 or 14? I don't know. It's up to you.
I mean, like I said, that is an acceptable answer. Even Leia herself said, Han, nobody thinks that the Ghost is better than the Millennium Falcon.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. When Hera made him say it, I was like, oh, that hurts my heart a little bit. Which is funny because the Ghost is my character's ship. But
yeah.
Again, like I said, the Ghost is less temperamental and better armed, so there's that. That could be helpful in a battle, but you would seem more innocent flying around in the Millennium Falcon than you would in the Ghost with all that ability to harm others. Like, what are you doing? So anyway, I guess I'm old school and I love the Falcon. So there you have it.
There you go, Vanessa. On behalf of Star Wars Newsnet and the Resistance broadcast, I just want to say thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to come on the show today to talk with me and answer our questions. It truly is an honor. We're such big fans, and we're grateful to have you.
Well, bless you. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it, and happy to talk anytime.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
And I guess back to the Resistance broadcast.
Woohoo!
All right, that was awesome. Thank you so much, James, for conducting that. And of course, thank you, Vanessa Marshall, for stopping by. You are welcome anytime on this show. So thank you so much. May the force be with you. Now we're going to send it. Are you going to follow this one, Bill? So let's send it over to Bill Sheehy for Is the Force With You?
In the words of the late, great Samuel L. Jackson, take a seat. Our first story tonight is about 21st Century Fox could possibly is the key word here, be selling their entertainment assets to Disney, which does include the X-Men, Fantastic Four, and any other kind of entertainment asset they have. They are selling it to Disney. So, John, let me start with you. Is the Force with you with Fox possibly selling its assets to Disney?
The Force is not with me for a couple of reasons. One, because this is going to be one of those things that every week we're going to have this in this segment, and it's going to go back and forth just like earlier in the year. Will Disney leave Netflix? Will they not leave Netflix? So I'll tackle this when it happens. It's also not with me because I really don't care. Because I mean, I'll watch it whether it's 21st Century Fox or I'll watch it whether it's with Disney. It doesn't really. I mean, Disney has so much right now, and obviously, as we have talked about already, so much more coming. So it didn't rub me one way or the other, honestly. So the Force is not with me.
James Baney, is the Force with you?
I'm really excited to see Deadpool team up with Finn and Poe. No, I'm just kidding. No, the Force is not with me on this for the same reasons that John was just bringing up. This is a story. This is absolutely a story. I just, in some ways, it's kind of a non-story. It seems like it's getting this whole thing like, what, Disney's going to own Fox and stuff, and maybe we're going to get the original Star Wars trilogy back, like the original, like, stop, just chill out, hold on. This is just talking about Fox downsizing a little bit. Maybe they're moving some of their properties. They're willing to move those off and maybe try to pick up newer, fresher properties or something along those lines. We don't know really much about what they're talking about. So give it some time, let it do its thing. It'll probably drop off next week. There was talk that Apple was going to buy Disney at one point. You know what I mean? It's that just fell off, so it's like, the Force is not with me. Let's just let this story ride out.
And Pat, is the Force with you?
For the longest time, the Force was meh with me, and kind of still is. As much as I would love to see the X-Men team back up again with the Avengers and some sort of like X-Men versus Avengers movie, it's a little weird right now. Like James was saying, we need to wait a little bit, see how things turn out. Hopefully, we'll hear something in the next couple of months, but if we don't, I'm not going to put much stock in it. I'll go about my day. I'll be just as happy as I was before.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you guys. The Force is not really with me on this. Now, when The Force Awakens was coming out, my biggest concerns was, and this is absolutely true, was that it's not gonna have the Fox fanfare, which it felt like every time I still hear it, the dun 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 dun. I still think I'm about to watch a Star Wars movie. But real quick, after I saw Force Awakens and Rogue One, got over it very, very quickly. Like you guys said, the possibility of X-Men coming to the MCU is really, really appealing. But as it pertains to Disney and Star Wars, the Force is not with me. All right, on to the next one. So we got a new excerpt from the new Canto Bight novel, and it introduced us to a new character named, and I'm butchering this, and bless me in advance, Kaljak Somani, and his visit to the Casino City. So, John, I'll start with you again, and we'll go to James next time. Is the Force with you on this new excerpt from Canto Bight?
It's surprised as I am, it is with me. I mean, I have my issues about this book that I talked to you guys about that I won't get into on the podcast, but that's more of a financial reasoning. But I loved this. I'm really now even more excited to see Canto Bight in The Last Jedi. These two characters, Dodi and Thodi, which are the two reptilians, I believe, that they showed in the behind-the-scenes reel. I mean, they look like a couple of characters. Not like characters, but this guy's a character over here. Like that kind of character.
The aliens from Men in Black. Hey!
Yeah, those guys look kind of cool. So if they're... I mean, I don't know. I was excited to read this thing. And I don't know if I'll read the full book, but it at least... appetized my appetite, if that's phrasing for The Last Jedi. So the Force is with me.
Trademark that right away. Appetizing your appetite. James Baney, is the Force with you?
The Force is not with me, but for different reasons. Yeah, just because I'm kind of a little burnt out on reading the excerpts from books. There's been a few that have come out in recent history, and I always get excited about them. I'm like, oh, new revelation, and they just they don't really tell you anything, and for some reason they don't even really seem to get me that excited about them. I read the Phasma one, I read the Battlefront one, and they just don't really seem to do anything for me. And to be honest with you, it's just, I feel like I'd rather just read it in the book when it comes out. So I just kind of passed on it. So I don't really have a lot to say. That sounds really cool. I mean, I think the book is going to be awesome. If you listen back a couple podcasts ago, it was my most anticipated when Del Rey did their big reveal. I said, this seems really cool to me. I'm excited to see all these different perspectives on the floor of the gambling casino of Canto Bight on the planet of Cantonica. So, Cantonica, if you're a metal band, yeah. But as far as the excerpt itself, Force is not with me.
Patrick Covey, is the Force with you?
The Force is meh again. I'm sorry, I'm that meh kind of guy tonight. But I did like the look into this, how this is like any other gambling place like Vegas or Atlantic City. You've got all these miscreants from different places coming all into one place, and they can all unite over something they love together. Just kind of like us here at the Resistance broadcast, all uniting to talk about Star Wars.
Oh, that was very, very sweet, Patrick.
But like James was saying, yeah, there wasn't a lot of stake in this excerpt. I hope we get a little bit more hijinks. If I see that coming up in maybe another excerpt soon, maybe I'll pick it up. But I'm hoping to see more that ties into The Last Jedi. If there's enough of a nugget there for me, I might pick this one up.
The Force is really not with me on this. Of all the new, and James, you said it at one point was your most anticipated book that they announced. This was always my least anticipated one. It doesn't really do anything for me, and it still doesn't. I'm sure once I see it in the movie, I'll love the planet itself and what's happening and all in the atmosphere. But I'm not a huge gambler, and like that kind of stuff doesn't really interest me. So it doesn't appeal to me at all. So the Force is not with me. All right. So our next story, we got a 4th episode of Forces of Destiny that premiered, where Rey discovered a stubborn, unmoving Hapabor sitting on the ship she's meant to tow back. So James, since I said I would start with you last time, let me go ahead and start with you now. Have you seen it, and is the Force with you on it?
It's Forces of Destiny.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I got to say about it. I mean, so she's digging through the Hapabor's nose, and she gets to hang out with Unkar Plutt. So, I mean,
quiet girl.
It's fine, and I enjoy seeing these little side stories. What do I really have to lose? 2 minutes of my life? What do I really gain? Maybe a little bit of insight onto just what she's doing in her free time. But to be honest, it's nothing major in canon, and the way I just kind of view all of these stories now are just kind of like fun little whatevers. I will say it's not my favorite. So yeah. I guess the Force is not with me, but I do like Forces of Destiny. I feel like it's fun, and I'm glad they have it. So Force is with me on Forces of Destiny. Force is not with me on specific episodes sometimes.
John, we all know that you're the president of the I Love Forces of Destiny Club. So let me ask you, have you seen the episode, and is the Force with you on it?
I have seen the episode, and the Force is with me on this episode.
Oh, really? Plot twist.
Yeah, because this reminded me of, first of all, I love that Daisy Ridley does it. They must have had her sign that contract early on, because if she had known now that she'd be picking boogers on a 2-minute cartoon, I mean, come on. But it reminded me of, I used to watch He-Man when I was a kid, and at the beginning or end of the episodes, they would have this like lesson learn thing to show kids, and that's what this reminded me of. Like, and then like she frees the Hapabor, and it's like, do good things, and good things will happen to you, right? So then the Hapabor helps push the ship, and I don't know if that's the same Hapabor that knocks Finn on his ass in The Force Awakens, but it could be. But it was fun enough, and I'm beginning to take these things at face value, that they're little infomercials on how kids should act. So instead of being a grump for this one, Bill, the Force is with me.
Oh, I'm glad you were able to learn something. Patrick Covey, have you seen it, and is the Force with you?
I actually have seen this, and as disgusting as it was, picking through nasty boogers. I gotta say the Force is with me on this one. Much like what John was saying, it was kind of showing us, like, you don't cross Rey and get away with it. She always finds a way to screw you over again if you try to cross her. So I did like that. The Happabore ended up actually helping her. That was really cool. But it kind of reminded me of that scene from Return of the Jedi where Jabba the Hutt pulls Slave Leia closer to, and she's like, ugh.
Yeah.
I got a lot of feeling similar to that from Return of the Jedi, and that was pretty funny.
Gotcha. As for me, I get the Force is with me. I love Forces of Destiny. It's something that I can sit down with my 4-year-old godchild and watch, and she can enjoy it. It's not necessarily made for me, and I'm okay with that, and that's fine because Star Wars doesn't need to be just for a 23 to 40-year-old man. It's for everybody. So yeah, and as for the episode, I enjoyed it. I know we've made a lot of Harry Potter references, but it reminds me of when they took the wand out of his head, out of his nose, and the Sorcerer's Stone with all the bogeys and stuff like that.
True bogeys.
Exactly, a little British lingo for some of our listeners out there. So the Force is with me on this one. And our last story today is about my favorite character in the new trilogy. John Boyega's Finn was answering some questions about Finn possibly being Force sensitive and becoming a Jedi. He sat down with Digital Spy and said, "Would I like to be a Jedi? I think it would be more interesting if they had more than one person be a Jedi, but I think that is one of the unspoken laws of Star Wars. They only have one has to go away and train." He goes on to say, "I hope it takes an interesting turn, not in terms of being a Jedi, but there are loads more stronger characters in the Star Wars universe that can go up against Jedi, and they don't necessarily have to be a Jedi." So, Patrick, let me start with you on this, on our final story. Is the Force with you on John Boyega's comments about being a Jedi or possibly being Force sensitive?
Yeah, I actually do like these comments. I'm not sure about the whole Force sensitivity thing, because that's still a sketchy topic, and I think once we get through The Last Jedi, we maybe can brainstorm on that a little further, or, get closer to that definitive answer of, is he close to the Force? Because we really don't have much to go off of there from Force Awakens. But in terms of being a Jedi, we know from seeing stuff with John Boyega either on set or from early stuff from Force Awakens where he's like, man, this Jedi stuff is cool. Like, he wants to be a Jedi deep down.
Oh, yeah. Everybody
like you said,
does.
Every Jedi has a training point where they have to go off and do their own thing. We've seen Ezra go into the caves and do it. We've seen Luke at Dagobah. I mean, the only person I can think of who was a Jedi we really haven't seen is a lot of the old Jedi from like back in the day, like Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon and stuff like that. But other than that, in the current canon situation, our main protagonists have all gone off to train, and now we get to see Rey.
James Bainey, is the Force with you on John Boyega's comments?
The Force is with me on his comments. I think he knows what he's talking about in the sense that, yeah, sure, it would be great to be a Jedi, but at the same time, everybody can't be a Jedi. And there's so many other elements to Star Wars that are great and make Star Wars what it is. I'm totally fine to be any one of those characters. I don't have to be this specific type of a character to have fun and go down in history. That's like asking Harrison Ford if he wishes he was a Jedi. It's like, maybe not, but dude, don't you want to be a smuggler? You know what I mean?
Or asking, I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't have to be a Jedi. You could be so many other things, like a bounty hunter or anything else, So I think John's just definitely on point with this. And I'm excited I don't want to say I'm excited to see his character because we've kind of seen it, but I'm excited to see the future of Finn and how he continues to grow. So the Force is with me on Finn specifically and his character personality.
Gotcha. And John Hoey, is the Force with you?
Yes. The Force is with me. Going back to what we were talking about what we think about Finn's character for this movie, I think he's going to learn more from Rose and trade off on a human level more than some kind of cosmic magic level. So it's evident that the red herring happened in The Force Awakens. He was on the poster with the lightsaber, and the trailers had him with the lightsaber, and Harrison Ford's voiceover saying the lightsaber, and they showed Finn, or saying the Jedi, and they showed Finn. It happened. It came and went. They're not going back to it. That'd be ridiculous, in my opinion. But he's going to grow as a Resistance fighter. He's apparently supposed to like want to take off at the beginning of this movie, kind of probably like Han Solo did in Empire, not necessarily to pay debts, but probably to get the heck out of here. And something's going to happen and bring him back in. And I think that's going to be Rose, and he's going to learn a lot from her, more than he's ready to deal with, I think. So I think Finn's going to have a very full character arc, and it's not going to need to involve the Force. So the Force is with me on his comments.
I agree with everybody to a certain extent. The Force is with me. I understand he was the red herring, and I accept that, but I think it makes sense that he could have some kind of Force sensitivity. You don't just run off from the First Order after your first mission, after you've been raised from birth, if you didn't have a little bit of Force sensitivity. Now, will they go on from it? Probably not, and I can accept that, but I would love to see it by the end of 9, or maybe possibly in the next trilogy where they continue his story, that he is similar to Leia, where he's kind of Force sensitive. We didn't see anything from Leia until the end of Empire. That's so true. You never know. So I think there's something there, and the Force is definitely with me on his comments. So guys, that's all I've got. Thank you so much for taking a seat. And Patrick, off to you, bud.
Thanks, Bill. We're now going to move into tweeting with the Resistance. We asked you guys on Twitter last week, what is the funniest Han Solo moment in Star Wars? And we recommended you send it us gifts, and gifts we got. Kicking it off this week from Tatooine Sons at Tatooine Sons, that's not how the Force works. Bill, what do you think about this Star Wars moment?
It's up there. Like, it's not my favorite Han Solo moment or funniest Han Solo moment, but like it was my favorite in The Force Awakens, because that's kind of like how everybody was feeling when Finn was like, "We'll use the Force," and that's not how the Force works. Perfect Han Solo line, perfect line in general. It's very Han Solo, and yes, I agree. It's incredibly funny.
And then followed up by Chewie going like,
and
he goes, you're cold? That is, I laughed out loud in the theater. Probably the funniest line in the movie for me.
Absolutely.
I think this actually is one of my favorite Han Solo funniest moments. So we're kind of starting off with a bang with this one. But I do think what was so great about that is it's not just Han Solo. That's Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
That's Harrison Ford coming out and saying, "That's not how the Force works, dummy." You know what I mean? Like
yelling at his buddy for being cold.
Yeah, it's like, get out of my house. Like, so I think this is probably my funniest moment. But we have a lot of good ones on the list. What was the next one, Pat, we picked out?
The next one we picked out was from T-Dog at Whiskey's Tang, who gave us the wonderful Han Solo moment on Endor from Return of the Jedi, where they tricked all the Imperials out of the bunker, and he does that shrug, like, you gotta love me. What do you guys think?
I use that gif for literally everything. It's my favorite Han Solo, like, ism. It's just like, well, what are you gonna do?
It's like vaudeville Han Solo. Like everything he does in front of that bunker during that movie, like he does the tap on the shoulder, made you look thing.
Yeah,
he does
exactly.
Oh no, the wires aren't working. Weird, like oh no face. Like everything he does in front of the bunker is comedy gold.
This scene actually reminds me kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy Star-Lord, where he like wants everybody to know who he is, but nobody really knows Star-Lord. So it kind of reminds me of, all the Imperials run out and then they find themselves in a trap, and he just gives them this look like, "What'd you expect? I'm Han Solo." Like,
I wish he said that. I honestly wish he said that now that you mentioned it.
Yeah, like, and they don't even necessarily know who he is, but he thinks they know who he is because he's the greatest smuggler in the galaxy.
And then at the end of it, you hear a ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba.
Yeah.
That's all, folks.
Someone please make a YouTube edit of that. I need to see that in my future.
We'll have James do it.
Our next tweet came from Sarah Hass at SEH221, who gave us the wonderful moment from A New Hope where Han Solo goes around the corner chasing the stormtroopers, and he's faced with an army of stormtroopers with that shocking look of, what was I thinking?
Yep.
And this one specifically was a slow-mo gif, which made it even better.
Exactly.
Yeah. What's funny about this one? Sorry, Bill.
No, go ahead.
When they initially filmed it, there was like 6 stormtroopers, and like George Lucas threw in like 500. So
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he turns the corner, and just his face in that GIF is just like the least Harrison Ford face you'll probably ever see. It's just so not Harrison Ford, and the scream. It's like a reminder of how fun and light A New Hope was at times.
Yeah.
And when you look at like the way like Star Wars trailers are now, with they're all dark and heavy and stuff, it's like, yeah, they had a boom mic guy who wore pink shorts on Tatooine. So Star Wars is fun, and even Harrison Ford had fun. So I love that clip, man.
When you said that they added the stormtroopers, George Lucas added the stormtroopers, do you mean in the first original version they only filmed it with a couple? Because I thought they added like a lot more for the special edition.
I think, that's what I mean. I think they added them digitally.
Yeah, and it definitely gives that scene a different feel, but I actually like it better when he comes around and he's like, oh my God, a whole entire room of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I almost slightly think like if you see the original one, he might have tried to actually handle a couple of them on his own because he's kind of that smug. But yeah, I do like it better. He comes around the corner and he's like, oh my God, there's like 500 stormtroopers. I got to back out and get out of here. So yeah, that way, go the other way. So.
And our final tweet came from Drew Masterson at Masterson1988, and he shared that wonderful moment where he looks at Chewie from Empire Strikes Back and says, "Laugh it up, fuzzball."
I mean, it's iconic. Like it's really kind of like we loved Han Solo in A New Hope, but he became like iconic with some of his lines in Empire, and this was kind of the start of it. Laugh it up, fuzzball, and even from I love you, I know, never tell me the odds. This is the start of that for me, and it's
was that the first time we ever saw Chewie laugh too?
Maybe.
When he
But yeah, gotta love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's classic. Laugh it up, fuzzball. He has a very like kind of like ticked off, like you don't have my back, bro. Like you laugh at me, really? Like come on, man. He like turns quickly and he has like a mad look on his face. He goes, laugh it up, fuzzball. He probably wanted to say something else, but you can't curse in a PG movie. So,
but fuzzball in their galaxy is like the deepest, darkest of swear words.
Like
apparently.
Nerf herder.
Yeah, no, I don't know. This scene actually does remind me of just a few minutes earlier too, where Leia says, "I would just as soon kiss a Wookiee," and he says, "I can arrange that."
Yeah.
He's walking away. Yeah,
As he's walking away.
Yeah, so it kind of reminds me of that whole thing where it's kind of like this passing insult, and then at the same time, like in this particular scene, he goes right back explaining, "Oh, but you didn't see us in the southeast entrance or hallway."
She shared her true
yeah.
feelings for me.
So I don't know. Han Solo's the man, so that's all I got to say about that.
We may have to commentary Empire one day if we get enough people
Oh
interested.
my God, that's yes. Absolutely.
All 6 people who follow us who would be interested in that would get to listen to that movie.
That's true. It'd be a good time for all 6 of them.
I think we can all agree that Han Solo is one of the most badass characters of all time. All right, you moof milkers. We're going to send it back over to John. But first, check back later this week. We're going to have a bunch of tweets up for you guys. Give us your comments. You might end up on the show. John, back to you.
Thanks, Pat. And I know I think we had some questions from people this week too on Twitter, but we'll try to answer them next week too or something like that, right, Pat?
Of course.
Of course. All right, so that brings us towards the end of our show here. So before I get to our overall plugs, let's let the boys give their plugs. So Bill Sheehy, where can everybody find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Star Wars Bill. You can find me on the website StarWarsNewsNet.com, writing articles from time to time. Thank you so much for listening. May the Force be with you, always.
James, where can everybody find you, man?
You can find me at home taking care of my little Bennett boy who's getting hungry, so I think I got to jump off of here, but I'm really excited to just hang out with him, and I can't wait until he starts getting into Star Wars stuff.
Nice. Love it. Yep.
Not to mention, also on Twitter, at MyerTrunks, MIRAHTRUNKS. You can find me there, too.
All right, that's a Dragon Ball reference. And Pat, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ganon136. That's GANON136. Also, come over to the Cantina Forum. Would love to chat with you guys. I'll also be playing a crap ton of Battlefront 2 this week. Hit me up. My gamer tag is Ganondorf136. Would love to come play with you guys.
Awesome, guys, and I'm John Hoey. You can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, and I write on StarWarsNewsNet.com pretty much every week. Don't forget, you can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, now YouTube, so please subscribe, follow, subscribe, like, do everything. Get involved. As Pat was saying before, get involved with the Twitter too, ask us our questions. And as far as the website goes, in the top left corner of StarWarsNewsNet.com, click the Cantina, join that. There's over 8,000 people talking about Star Wars at random points of the day from all over the world. We do really have the best fan community. So again, subscribe, get involved. We love you guys. And thanks for listening. This was a loaded episode, so we went a little longer than we normally do, but it was packed with content for you, so we know you guys will love it. That pretty much does it for this transmission of the Resistance broadcast.
Hey, Akbar, what's that around Hera's head?
It's a wrap!